Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program. Great to be here, and I do hope you're going to keep me company for the entire hour. We have two amazing women on the show this morning. The first one is Dr. Ambassador Mehreen. She is a global educationist and transformational mental wellness advocate. Our second guest is another dynamic woman, and she is the CEO of Kurtuba, based here in the northern suburbs of Johannesburg. So let's start with our first guest. We are going to be focusing on wellness. We're going to be talking about transformation, and we're going to be talking about education and how that prepares our young people for the world of work and the world of real life. So our first guest, gives me great pleasure to have you on the show this morning, Dr. Ambassador Mehreen. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's lovely to be here. Jazakallah for having me.
Mehreen, when I look at your title, I kind of wonder, did this young lady ever stop studying? What was her path like that led her to this point in her life where she's an ambassador and a doctor? And you're going to explain to us of what and how this is enriching our communities and society at large.
Alhamdulillah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Firstly, of course, everything is from our Creator. So I give blessings to our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and of course, gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing me to be where I am today. Ambassadorship comes from the UN GIA, which is based in the USA. It was a nomination and an award given to me through the COVID period. And since then, obviously, with the work I've been doing globally, I've now become an ambassador for various organizations representing South Africa. And I've also been awarded the Global Peace Ambassadorship from 3 different international organizations as well, because of promoting peace, especially for women and children. The doctorates come honorary. I have to say that there's a few, but my main ones are in education and in the fields of psychology and educational psychology. And of course, one of the doctorates is in humanitarianism, and that's again for the work that I'm doing for humanity at large. So that's where that comes from. In terms of studying, I don't think I'm ever going to stop. So as much as those are honorary titles, the professorships, etc., all of that does come with lots of hard work, lots of studying. But for me, I just believe we have to keep learning. As Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, everything to do with us is about knowledge. And the more knowledge I have, or the more that I study, or the more that I learn, the more I'm able to equip myself to learn on how to deal with other people. So many people had, come across to me, or I've been through a lot of difficulties too. So it's not like these things come without the difficulties. But when I say certifications, when you talk accolades, for example, all of these things are from Allah. And those don't define who I am, though. The certificates are merely there as a gratitude from the universe. But the certificate worth is only based on what I give off from what I've studied or what the education is. And what I give off is the worth of that certificate. So I believe that the accolades are all just blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the test is then onto what you are doing with it to help humanity at large. And alhamdulillah, I think, and I say this very humbly, I think from what I've been doing so far, it's been successful. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide me to be more successful to help more people across the world, inshallah.
Subhanallah. So tell us, what is it that you're currently doing?
Well, in the past year, it hasn't been a very easy year, but through it, I've worked through and developed my own program, which is called the MIA program. Obviously, MIA is surname, but it's in legacy of my dad. But MIA does stand for something. So it's motivate, inspire, and advance. And that's because of my own life. And the difficulties of life, I believe every one of us has it within us to motivate, inspire, and advance ourselves to get through any difficulty. And if we have the necessary tools through education, through learning, through developing, and there's no age limit to that, we will be able to get through no matter what life throws at us. And that's the program I'm at now. What I'm busy with now are many different programs across the globe. The main one is through education base, and that's through lecturing at different international institutions, but also getting into our schools in our country to make sure this program reaches our teachers, parents, and our children. So like I said, this program is not designed just for kids in a classroom. It's designed for a three-way educational aspect, which inshallah we'll talk about. But that for me is the key about the program itself and what I'm working on, is to try and get the empowerment phases of life and the tools that are necessary, not just to be done in workshops or, or anything like that, is to be done at school level, with our teachers, with our children, and with our parents. That's where I'm at the moment, inshallah.
So I'm hearing the big word that you keep talking about is empowerment. We're going to get to that word in a minute or two and understand how we empower our children to grow up to be responsible, grounded young adults, and that they have focus in the future, current and future lives. But I also know that you're really very involved, and what's close to your heart is education. And I'm wondering about our education system here in South Africa. I'm wondering also about the teaching fraternity, and shouldn't our teachers have a basic understanding of educational psychology and understand the psyche of our children so we can hook our children into the love of education from the earliest possible time?
Alhamdulillah, what you just said is brilliant, because that's exactly what my philosophy base is. And one of the things I'm currently trying to study, and I'm saying study again, is the twist of the educational psychology concept. There is, for me, and I believe this, there is a psychology in education. And if every one of our teachers is able to just understand that concept, then understanding teaching in itself becomes easier. But when we get to educational psychology, we must remember, especially in our system, the one thing that is currently rife is our teachers, some of them are really passionate about wanting to teach, but the system doesn't allow for that passion to come forth because so many other dictatorial or necessary things, admin-wise, take over teaching time. So the actual course of teaching per se as connection with my child, connection with a parent, and connection with growing and developing myself as a teacher, that gets thrown out the window simply because stats have to be done, curriculum has to be finished, etc., etc. And when we look at that, we have to understand there's a mindset behind that. We're looking at average children in our system in South Africa. An average classroom base is about like 35 to 40 children in a public school. Those 40 children are coming from different environments, different socioeconomic standards, different parental issues, whatever they may be. But those are 40 kids in one classroom. This is the hypothetical example I'm giving you. Those 40 kids see an average of 6 to 8 teachers a day in a public school. Again, 6 to 8 individuals coming from their own difficulties, their own psychosocial economic issues, whatever it may be. But who in that scenario of those 40 kids versus the 8 teachers, who really knows each other? They only know each other based on the school system that they're sitting in. And those teachers are not equipped mentally nowadays to have to deal with those 40 different isolated kids who have so many different issues going on in their lives. Yet, and I've seen this because I've been in schools to do the program now, kids, for example, look forward to a teacher saying, "How are you today?" Because that child does not get a "how are you" at home anymore. I have counseled kids in the past couple of months who go home to being the parent because the parents are out working. And the parents come home to that child having to deal with the siblings while the child is out working. So a child from a school is going home to be the parent, to parent those siblings of theirs, make sure they've eaten, make sure they have their bath in time, make sure the homework is done. So it is that child in a high school, for example, have time to learn, have time to educate themselves because they have those roles they have to play. So we're kind of lost in it. And I'm saying that because which teacher then knows about that child in the classroom? So that triangular effect of what's happening between the child, the parent, and the teacher is somewhere lost in our system. And that's where I believe that psychology in the education is necessary for us to try and develop. And inshallah, I hope Allah helps me to be able to get something going so that I can help with understanding that for myself and then teaching that off to others so that they get better in their professions and in being the students they need to be. Inshallah.
Inshallah, Ameen. Mehreen, let's look at this scenario. We know that you have You've used this as an example. 40 children in one classroom, 8 different teachers that they're exposed to during the course of the day. And each child's background is very different. The child who comes to school on a hungry tummy or comes from a dysfunctional family is not going to be focused on his or her schoolwork. The teacher is going to marginalize that child because he or she is not paying attention. And the child goes home even more broken than when he or she entered the system because he feels like he's invisible. The teacher is not interacting with him because she feels it takes way too much energy to interact with this child. Is that child going to be lost to the system? That's a very important question I want to put to you. And also the essence of empowerment, education and empowerment in today's very instant age and fast-paced world. Mull over those. You're going to respond to those questions right after the ad break. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back to the second segment of our show. My guest is Dr. Ambassador Mehreen Mia, and we are talking education and empowerment, a very, very important subject, especially what we're seeing and hearing coming out of our classrooms, going into tertiary, having huge fallout rates, and then young people at a total loss, and they then become the missing generation or the lost generation as far as society is concerned. Welcome back, Dr. Ambassador Mehreen Mia. And of course, you're going to respond to those loaded questions, aren't you?
I am, inshallah. But I must say, Sister Julie, please refer to me as Sister Mehreen. The titles mean nothing to me, inshallah. So just Mehreen is good.
You deserve those titles. Enjoy them.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yes, before the break, we did ask 2 questions, very important ones. In terms of the example you gave me for the child who might be lost to the system, we might think that right now, but if we equip ourselves and we deal with things as we are, for example, if we are able to allow or get a message out there that we need our guidance counselors back in schools. I belong now to a board, an executive board of one of the NGOs who are running, it's called, lots of, but the point is we're trying to get across the message to the government, to different schools, to SGBs. Let's try and bring back a guidance counselor per school, because when we were in school, when I was in school, there was one. And there was somebody who made that change, an effective change, so that the children were not lost to the system. The children had the go-to space in his school that was not marked on a report to say, you're bad. There was someone who was there to give that guidance over and above a syllabus guidance. So that's one of the things that I think we can do, and that's what my program does. It actually can train guidance counselors, life coaches to actually go into schools and play that role that doesn't help our kids to get lost, but rather offers the guidance to counsel these children so that they can become better equipped for whatever they're dealing with. In terms of the second part of your question, I think it was referring to empowerment in education. That's exactly where the link comes in. If you have to look at education in itself, I firmly believe, and my entire program is based on the triangular effect of education. And that's because at the tip of my triangle sits our child, the learner, the student. And at the bottom end of our triangle, you have the parent and you have the teacher. And the reason that is that way is because that child needs to understand how important they are up there, and that they have the support structure of a parent or guardian and a teacher together. And when the teacher and the parent work hand in hand, they form the firm base for this child. So when we talk empowerment, we can't just talk empowerment of a teacher. You can't just be empowered as a parent or guardian. And we can't just talk about empowerment of a child in a school, because that triangle is actually the holistic, educated child in itself. So the empowerment link comes in where we try to draw an understanding that each one of these 2 at the bottom have got to be equipped enough, empowered enough to understand, to grow and develop this child at the top. And those 2 at the bottom need to be the base in every facet of this child's life. The base, the go-to space, the filler of the gap, not social media, not cell phones, not devices, not friends, and et cetera, et cetera. So that is the effect of the empowerment group. Empowerment is not about just power, being powerful. Empowerment is nothing like that. My belief about empowerment is it is about your self-growth. It is about your self-development. It's about you actually taking power over you, not becoming powerful over other people. And when we adopt that as a philosophy of empowerment, then we know that as an empowered teacher, as an empowered parent or guardian, as an empowered child, we can collectively grow our youth to become more balanced and more holistically successful than just looking at specific orientations only. Inshallah, I hope that has answered you so far.
It has, but it also brings another very important question to mind, and that is when we talk about this triangle and the teacher and parent working hand in hand to get the best out of this child, it doesn't always work, does it? Because sometimes the teacher is on the back foot, and sometimes the teacher gets intimidated by the demands of the parent, because I think our parents these days have very high expectations of the education fraternity, the teachers. They expect you to deliver, sometimes even expect you to take the role of the parent.
Absolutely, absolutely. Especially post-COVID, this is exactly what we're finding. And unfortunately, I have found that parents seem to have this, and this is not all parents, this is majority that I've seen so far. They have the tendency to have a mindset that once I drop off my kid, once my child is left at a school, then my responsibility is done until I pick up my child. And that is the mentality that has to change. That child remains your responsibility throughout. Even if your child is at a daycare, it still becomes your responsibility. When we want to talk about mindset and growing this child's mind, it is not the teacher's responsibility. It is not the teacher's responsibility to teach your behavioral patterns of your children. It is a parent responsibility. That filters through to the school. And most often, if we have schools that have parent meetings, and very rare do you have parents actually pitch up, sadly. But when the parent does pitch up and they go to speak to a teacher, and the teacher has to say to this parent, your child, I found, has got this and this that might be wrong. Can you please do certain things to help and let me know how I can help in the future? Parents are in denial of wrongs of their children as well. Parents just feel that it's not their problem. It's not their fault. It's not them to blame. It's the teacher that has to do A, B, and C. And this is why, like I said earlier, our teachers are inundated with so much that they have to deal with, that they themselves mentally don't have that capacity anymore to love to just teach, which is what they got into the profession for. Educating is not just education classroom-based. Education is life-based. And when the parent understands that, part of that life-based education starts with you and not just with the school environment or your teacher, then we're going to be able to have some form of balance. But until we get that scale balanced, where we're all on par at the bottom of the rung of that triangle, then we're going to constantly have the issue with the child at the top, which we do have now. Our youth nowadays have got majority gaps, which they themselves don't know how to fill. Parents are saying we don't know how to fill those gaps for our children. I was a guest at an event 2 weekends ago, and I had majority of the grade 9 parents sitting there who were wanting advice on how their children should be getting into certain courses, etc. So we spoke about that. But what for me was amazing was all of those parents came up and said, please, can you help us as parents? How do we cope with our children? How do we understand our children? And that for me made me realize that parents are parenting children, but they don't know how to actually be the parent to the child. Because of the gap in the generations, because there's a gap in the mindset, there's a gap somewhere. And it's that gap we have to identify to know how do we fulfill that gap holistically with goodness so that we build the family and we create that triangle that does work. And inshallah, as we keep going and we keep learning, we learn through these mistakes that are in society, but we need to build through them. And one of the key things is for us, especially if you're a parent, acknowledge if you are wrong. If you're a child, acknowledge if you are wrong. And the acknowledgement is your growth together. There's nothing wrong with that. None of us have a book that tells us how to be ABC and get the qualification. So it's about trial and error, and we have to get through that. But these are children's lives that are at stake. It's their future that's in someone's hand. Whose hand is it in? And that's the question we have to ask. If you're a parent, whose hand is that child's life in? It's not the teacher only. It's not just yours only. And as much as we have our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also given us the structures. He's given us your mental capacity. He's given us the time. So you need to take your time, which is your gift of your time, and understand what am I choosing to do with this time, with the mentality I'm given, to help enhance this child who's also a gift unto me. So these are the things we have to look at. And this is why the empowerment of a parent, while we're empowering the teacher, is going to help empower the child. That's where the link between the empowerment and education does come in. And inshallah, we'll work together to try and work it through with our parents as well.
Absolutely. And of course, I've often heard young parents these days saying that they don't even understand. They're suggesting that the education system and the curriculum has changed so much that they can't keep up with it and they're not able to assist their children with homework. That's a very, very worrying trend. How do we then get the parents on board in this very, very important stage and aspect of the life of the child, to assist the child to get the best out of that child? Are there programs in place? Do they sit with the teacher? What is it that we actually do here to assist them? And we have to really move up on that answer, because I think we've come almost to the end of the show.
No problem. So yeah, just very quickly then, I think it's very key because yes, there are programs in place. There are, I'm sure, many other people like me, but I know mine is one of them, who can help these parents to understand their children better, children understand their parents better, but also to help our teachers understand the parent and help the parent become more involved in the child's life. One of the key things for me is for us not to negate issues. If the child is an issue at school, don't make the child labeled an issue. And when you're the parent, understand your child. The one thing I really would like to appeal to every parent out there, if you're a guardian or parent, please listen to your children. It's amazing how much of intel they have about themselves already. So when you want to know anything about them, ask them, but don't get agitated when the answer is not what you are looking for. Grow with what the answer is, because they're speaking for themselves. And that's what we want them to do. We want you to be the safe haven for them to come to. So when you're asking your children anything, respect their answer. And if it's not the correct one, guide them in a specific way as well. Children nowadays tend to come to me and say, well, nobody listens to me. No one understands me. That's the norm for kids nowadays. And we have to ask ourselves, why are they feeling so misunderstood and not heard? So that's the key factor in terms of programs. So I'm sure across this country, we have got programs and workshops, etc., for these kinds of concepts. So, get in touch with those. Let's help ourselves to help our children. Let's help our teachers to help our children. But I think we really need to look at how to empower our teachers while we empower our children and empower our parents to become more involved so that they can learn. And in terms of understanding the curriculum, I too have a child, and I can tell you now when she brings math homework, as much as I was the A student in math, I still can't help her today. So there's nothing wrong with that. But there's something wrong, obviously, in the system, because if the children are not able to get the answer in a classroom, then somewhere in the school environment, we need to figure out how can we help. Parents need to make time to also figure out these things. So it's all about time. It's all about effort, and it's all about us giving heart and soul into what we want to do in terms of the outcome we want for our youth for today, inshallah.
And that's where we have to leave it. You and I have to have many, many more discussions in the future, inshallah. We've only scratched the surface regarding these issues. Thank you indeed for your very valued input. Until the next time, as always, keep us in your du'as, and salaam alaikum to you. That was Dr. Ambassador Mehreen Mia talking to us about education, parenting, and the teacher's responsibility. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the second part of our show this morning, right here on Perspective. And at the start of the show, I did say to you that I have two amazing women on the show. While we're done talking with Mehreen Mia, we now have the amazing Sahair Banu Ismail Adamjee, the CEO of Kurtuba. And if you haven't heard of Kurtuba as yet, then you're not living in South Africa. It's an amazing place in the north of Johannesburg. I have visited it twice and I was blown away. The once I attended a wedding, I couldn't believe the classy venue that I was at. The second time, I had the most amazing meal in the restaurant. But let's get talking with the brains behind this idea, and that is, of course, the CEO of the Kurtuba brand. She is Sahair Banu. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam. It's a pleasure being here.
And I must commend you once again. I've been several times to Kurtuba, and it's taken my breath away. Alhamdulillah. How did this all start for you?
You know, I use two words always, and one is organic, and the other one is by default. So we were living in Marlborough, and a couple of years ago we had a hold-up and decided to move to our small holding in Lindborough Park. So Lindborough Park is an agricultural holding, and we used to, it's very farmy, where you have sheep and goats and cows, and it's more like my childhood where I grew up in something like this. And with that we had a few tenants, and it was really what we call Lindborough is country living in the city.
Wow.
You know, because the lifestyle is open, fresh air. And we lived there for a while, and we had to move because the place we were living in was an industrial site, so we had to move to residential. When we moved to residential, we decided to take our tenants that were with us on the property, and we built Kurtuba.
Subhanallah. What a beautiful story. How old is Kurtuba?
We've just celebrated our 10th anniversary. We had a very nice street fair, a souk, which we celebrated the school, the housing, and our hotel.
So what came first? Was it the conference center?
The housing.
The housing.
Yeah.
And I also understand you running a very, very good school there, online learning as well as...
We've got an on-site
right.
and an online school.
How old is the school?
The school came in maybe plus minus, maybe 2 years after we moved in. It started at Kurtuba, where we're living, and then we outgrew it, so we had to get another property, and we moved to that.
What made you decide that a school would be a good idea on the property?
That's where the organic come from. The school came up on our Jummah table. So my children and I, my hubby, we always together for Jummah. And I've got 15 grandchildren. And they keep saying, you know, with the amount of grandchildren we got, maybe we should have a school. So it came in like, let's try. We can put up a school, and tenants and the tenants' children, and with no experience, no school experience, we got ourselves a mentor and decided, right, let's set it up. So behind where we're living, by our houses, there was a chicken coop. It was a very beautiful chicken coop. And we renovated that into our first school. Before school, we ran a madrasa for all the children that were in the complex. And after that, we turned it into a school.
That was huge. Did you ever second guess yourself and doubt and think, oh goodness me, is this going to work? And
we do that often.
All the time.
We do that all the time.
But it's a very, very successfully run school. How many kids do you have on site? And what's the number of your online learners?
On site, I just found this out yesterday, so I can tell you we over around 700 odd children. On site, online, I can't tell you exactly, but we do have quite a bit.
And this is an Islamic school, is it not?
Both, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's wonderful, subhanallah. Do you get personally involved in the school at all? Or is this just an oversight situation that you're in?
At the moment, it's an oversight situation. The initial I was very much involved with my daughter-in-law, who is now the main person there as well, and my son-in-law. When the hotel came up, I stepped away. You can't do two things. You can't put your heart in both at the same time. So I stepped away and I run the hotel, the whole hospitality.
I must say it's beautiful. As I've indicated at the beginning of the interview, that I have been there on several occasions. I think I attended 2 weddings at the conference center, and it honestly took my breath away. It is beautifully done. The architecture, the workmanship, it is really very upmarket. It must have cost a lot of blood, tears, sweat, and everything else that goes into it.
Did.
And you realized at the time that you're going to do it, but you're going in the whole hog. You're not going to spare any expense. But at any time did you wonder, oh goodness me, is this going to work? And what about the family, sons, daughters, daughters-in-law, hubby? Were they behind you through all of these major decisions that needed to be taken?
I think most or all decisions that's taken there are very family orientated. It isn't like a one-person thing. We sort of go through it very organically, decide, okay, we've got this property, there's a hall, can we put up halls? And because we got in-house architects, engineers, it makes life very easy.
Are you saying that your children are architects and engineers? No. Oh, you mean you
we've
brought
got a
them on
company.
board?
We've
Okay,
got companies, yeah.
Well, it's evident in the style of the buildings that you've put up, because you can see it's done very, very professionally. Let's look at how you built your brand over time, because you say you're 10 years old, Kurtuba's 10 years old, but honestly, I think the first time I heard about Kurtuba was just pre-COVID. My son attended a golf event there, golf awards event. And when he came home with the pictures, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I thought to myself, this really does, this is really top end of the market. That was a very concerted decision on the part of the entire family, because you decided you're going into this venture, but you're going to ensure that it's really top of the market. People will want to come to the small holding. What's it now? The campus. Because you've got a school, you've got a hotel, you've got a restaurant. I think you've got a little small holding as well.
Like the Kurtuba estate. Yeah, that's on its own. And then where the hotel is, we have the hotel, the school. Down the road, we've got the Kurtuba Convention Center. So it's not all in one property. It's fairly close to one another. But Kurtuba, the estate, is the first to have come up. So we had our personal houses, and we put up a block of apartments.
Challenges over all of this time, and kind of sitting back in a family meeting, discussing how do we move forward. This is way more difficult than we thought it would be. And as you're growing into the space, not only you as the CEO, but the entire family, how did you guys sit together, butt heads, and decide, okay, this is what needs to be done, or that's not the right route to go?
I think the advantage of if I can say, the first block that we put up, is myself and my 2 sons had the same concept of what we want. I love the Moroccan, Moorish architecture. And the inspiration for that was from a place called Avianto. What we wanted is this Arabian-style housing which has courtyards and this narrow gullies we used to have where the sun sort of filters through, and it's something that is from the heart. Something where, till today, when I walk there, it's like I can see this place coming up. And it wasn't like just put up a block of flats and get it rented. No, it had to be something. And that is the footprint of everything else you see, whether it's a school, the convention center, the hotel. They got all, it's a similar footprint. Everything we do will go into that Moroccan, Moorish architecture.
It has that look.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go for our first ad break, inshallah, in this segment of the show, and we'll come back and talk some more. Sahair Banu is my guest, and of course, we're talking the Kurtuba brand. She is the CEO and sharing a very fascinating story with us this morning. And if you've not yet been to this venue, this estate, then you're truly missing out if you are a Joburger or anywhere in South Africa. But we're going to talk more about that, inshallah, right after the ad break. Welcome back. We are talking with Sahair Banu Ismail Adamjee. She is the CEO of Kurtuba, and of course she has indicated that the entire family is behind the Kurtuba brand. They're a united, connected family, and they do everything together. And I think it's all about togetherness, about love, about support, about respect. And only then, if you are a very cohesive family unit, can you pull something like this off. Congratulations to you and your family for working so closely together to have achieved something as beautiful as the Kurtuba estate. Off air, you were telling me about the mosque on the complex. You got inspiration from a very particular special place. Tell us about it.
We flew to Dubai. The inspiration for Masjid Tariq bin Ziyad is a masjid in Zabil. I've Googled it and found a lot of beautiful pictures, aesthetics, and flew over just to have a look at it, took hundreds of photos, and came back, and we used that as an inspiration for the masjid.
Subhanallah.
And we've got a building called Al Qasr that is inspired by a hotel in the desert in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, wow.
And sometimes when you go out and experience what it is like, and then I think you build from your heart. Because you've put everything, you've seen what you want, and that is what you're putting into a place. And I think the place being successful as it is today is because we're hands-on in everything we do. So,
MashaAllah, wonderful.
Yeah, so the hotel is of a similar thing. The hotel was a retirement home. And it wasn't successful because I think we were a few years ahead of I think if we did it in the next 5 years, it could have. And I took that opportunity to open a hotel. No experience, no hospitality experience, and a very few of us, and we ran it.
Is the entire family involved? And I also understand that you at Kurtuba has managed to achieve, is it 5-star rating?
For the restaurant, for the venue,
Yep.
the Kurtuba Convention Center.
Right.
And the hotel, we've rated 4 stars.
Okay, so I was right when I said that the Kurtuba Convention Center is truly top-notch, top class. Alhamdulillah for that. Who is your target market? Who should be visiting Kurtuba? Let's talk about your hotel. How many rooms do you have? And also the people that are renting, is it apartments on the property?
In the hotel, we've got 39 rooms at the moment. We've got self-catering apartments. We've just built glamping.
Which is what?
It's a luxury camping.
Oh, wow.
It's wooden cabins.
Right.
We've put that up as well. Where the hotel is concerned, I always say that the hotel has chosen its clients. And Shukar, we've come so far. We have international guests, and they, like it's word of mouth. So they go tell people, and we do have a lot of international guests coming. We have families who come for staycation because we have animals on the property. So whether you're coming with a small family, with little children, they can do pony rides, swimming, things like that as well. And then we've got, for bigger children, we've got paddle courts, mini golf. So it pulls in family. We have agencies who do 80% of looking for our clients, and we then can look after them. And we have a lot of corporates coming in. With the hotel and the Kurtuba Convention Center, they use that for conferencing, and they stay at the hotel.
How do you measure your success?
By my passion. I would measure it with my passion. I think that is the success of anything. If you don't wholly, solely enjoy what you're doing, I don't know if I would have come this far.
And you love what you're doing. Your heart and soul is in Kurtuba.
I do.
Including the heart and soul of your family. And they do say if you put your heart and soul and you're passionate about something, you can see it around you. It manifests in so many beautiful ways.
Definitely.
But of course, with all of this beauty around you come a lot of challenges as well. What is your biggest challenge up to now? And how did you circumvent the challenge?
If it's are you speaking of the complex or the
entire estate? And just, whilst you and family were working towards building this beautiful brand, you must have had lots of obstacles in the way.
There was, but it's, what, if you agree to disagree, you can overcome a lot of obstacles. So what I found very difficult is when people rent and things like that, you have to have empathy. You don't know who is coming to live there. Shukar, it turned out very well. We've got a lot of people at the moment living there. Where a hotel is concerned, I think your guests are very important. They is who will talk to other people, and they actually advertise for you.
Because you give them the total experience, don't you?
Because you give them the total
Alhamdulillah.
experience.
Let's also ask, from talking with you, this is not the first time I meet you. I have met you before as well. And I know that your heart and soul is in this brand, Kurtuba. And your very life seems to revolve around the essence of what this place is all about. You live on the property as well. But there has to be a balance between your personal life and your professional life. How do you create that balance?
I can lie to you and say everything is perfect, but it's not. I think as time goes, you sort of settle into what you would like your life to be. At this age, a couple of years, if you had asked me, what are you going to do at this age, I would have most probably tell you, retire. It didn't happen that way.
No, you have too much life and ideas and beauty within you.
So I think you try and balance. I make sure I meet my hubby at lunchtime so we can have a chat. I make Juma available for my children, for us to have lunch together. I love me time, so if it means getting up a couple of hours earlier just to have time for myself. I think it's all about how you plan your day, how you want it to work.
And you yourself know what is your balance and how to
Yes.
balance your
Yeah.
life. Do you have a spa on the property?
Yes, we do.
Oh, wonderful.
At the hotel.
Oh, so one can come for a very indulgent weekend.
Yes, they can.
Let's talk about, I mean, you seem to have it all on the property, and I can't wait to come for a little weekend away or whatever. But what are the future projects? Because you're the type of woman, and from what you're telling me about the family, is you guys are not going to sit back and now say, our work is done, our business is over, we're happy with what we have. You thrive on challenges and you're going to go for it. So what are your future projects?
Yes, definitely. We're not going to sit. Where the hotel is concerned, we extending.
Oh, wow.
We've at the moment building another 20 rooms, and inshallah next year another 60. Where the whole estate is concerned, we've just put up apartments, and we're still putting up more apartments.
Well, that sounds absolutely amazing. And fun-wise, what else? And obviously, when you talk about more rooms for the hotel, you're going to have to add on restaurants, I should imagine.
Yes. The concept we got at the hotel, it's a resort. What I would like you to, like you say, when you want to come, it's a place where you park your car and you only get into it the day you want to go away.
Wow.
Because it got everything on that ground. You want to use the spa or, like I said, play paddle or do archery. We even have archery. So there's a lot of things, and we keep thinking of new ideas that you can't just now sit and say, we're done. It's like having toys, you know? You're forever wanting more, and this is what we're doing.
And you're not going to believe it, that's the end of the show. Oh, thank you for being with us, and
Thank you for having me.
lots of success for the future of Kurtuba. Keep on going. You've got your heart in the right place, and I think it's very evident when one visits Kurtuba. There you have it, the end of the show. If you haven't been to Kurtuba yet, all the more reason you make a date and go and spend some time there. Thank you for watching. Till the next time, as always, Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz.